Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategy into frontline operations. Today, we have Caroline on the show. Thank you for being on the show, Caroline.
Thanks for having me, Martin.
Before we start, let's have a message from our sponsors. Caroline, do you know a business? Have you ever sold or exited a business, or do you know somebody that has?
Absolutely.
Was it a good adventure or a bad adventure?
It was a arduous adventure. I believe that all of those adventures have their highs and their lows. They always take longer than anybody anticipates. But in the end, when all is said and done, everyone is left much happier.
And what was good about it? When you say arduous, what do you mean by that?
I think like anything in life, when you're trying to go and make great things happen, curveballs that you definitely could never have planned for get thrown your way. And I think a lot of people, when they make that decision to make the transition, they just want it done. They're ready to move on to that next chapter, and they've already sort of crafted their vision for the future, and they're holding on to that vision. I had a client that used to say, I just want to be in the south of France. Like, I just want to be there in the south of France. I want this done so I can be there with my family. And that probably took her a good 18 months longer than she had anticipated. So the hope is that it gets done quickly, but those unexpected curveballs definitely slow it down. But I think curveballs are a part of life, and we learn through them, and they usually have a pretty big gift to offer and teaching for us.
Thank you. So if you don't want to hit those curveballs and you want somebody else to do it, and you want to get there, that's where Urgio comes in as an integration management office. A lot of people, like Caroline says, they're faced with curveballs. It takes longer. They don't get what they want. There's a lot of things that can be thrown at you that you don't know how to expect. So when we talk about operational excellence, trust in the people that you can lean on, like we're going to talk about today, about coaching, right? About support, about the title that I'm not going to give away because I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's really the opportunity to reach out. Just because you're the founder and you've been the CEO doesn't mean that you have to lead through this scaling or arduous. Leave it to the professionals. I drive an F-150. I do not do my own maintenance. There's electronics. I love my truck, but my truck, somebody else takes care of it when it comes time to maintenance. So you're scaling, you're looking to sell your business, you've got yourself a strategic buyer. Let Urgio help you actually scale your business so that you can get the investment or you become attractive to other strategic buyer. With that said, thank you very much, Urgio, for the sponsorship of this episode. Caroline, who are you? What's your full name?
I'm going to stop you first and say it's Carolyn.
Carolyn, thank you very much. Carolyn.
So there we go. So Carolyn de Voest is my name, and my business is called Better Your Best Business Performance Specialists. We work with small businesses to help optimize leadership, align teams, and drive plans. We do coaching, consulting, training in order to get there. It's been around since 2008. We are a team of professionals that sort of come together to help people that like to dream big really achieve those goals.
So tell us about you. Who are you? How did you get to where you are today? Go way back when.
Way back when. That's a great question. And this makes me really happy to talk about, but I would say sort of foundational to who I am is my family, both my mother and my father and my siblings. But, at the head of that is my father, who was a salesman and who really taught us that you have an idea, go make it happen. No one's going to wait. Nothing's going to wait. You want to go do something, you get out there and make it happen. And that from a young age, if there was something that we wanted, a bike, a car, a trip, it was always it's halfers, Carolyn, 50-50. You raise the first half, I'll pitch in the second half. And I think having that mentality as a kid, I was always thinking to myself, how am I going to make that half? What am I going to do? And I was always thinking outside the box to be like, what can I do? And I will say, like, growing up with two older brothers, I always felt that it was much easier for them to go out and find ways of making money. They were gardening, they were working midnight shifts in places, paying tons and tons of money. And as a female, I was like, I just don't have those opportunities. I just have to be a babysitter or deliver newspapers. So I was always looking for new ideas and did anything from like creating and running my own sports camps for kids to incorporating my first business called Play Like a Girl Athletics when I was 21. So that was like my foray into business. My dad really just planting that seed and saying, you want something, you got to go make it happen.
I absolutely love it. I want to talk. I came to realize, because I think this is important that I need to say this every time the opportunity shows up. I was a moron when it came time to the word entitlement, right? Or you're privileged. And I took it hard coming up from a very poor family and having to work my ass off. And when people said, oh, you're entitled, you're a white guy. And one of the episodes that I did a few episodes back, the guest really said, Martin, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the doors in front of you. And it said, if you're a white man, you've got 3 doors in front of you, all 3 will open. It has nothing to do with how hard you work or not. If you're a black man, 2 doors will open. If you're a woman, 1 door will open. And if you're gay, black, and anything else, no doors will open. So I really changed my mindset, and I feel for women of my age and coming up as well, how we didn't see it back then, right? And so I don't want to apologize for it because I didn't have control. What I do want to recognize is I need to use my opportunities as a white man now to say, hey, smarten up. Don't do that again. Provide that opportunity to everything and be intentional with intentional problems. Sorry for a side note, but I just have to say it when the opportunity shows up. So,
well, I just want
being said,
I just want to build on that because, when I popped onto your site to look at all your interviews, I was blown away at what a great diverse panel of human beings you've been chatting with. So that really shows itself in the work that you're doing. So kudos to you. Keep doing it and keep opening those doors for people.
So you're making me all teary-eyed. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you. Let's talk about something else that's going to bring tears to my eye. What's the title of the show, Carolyn? What did you pick for the title of the show?
Walking each other home. Our purpose in life. Everybody's purpose in life. We're here to walk one another home.
I want that to set. So listeners, viewers, say that in your head. We're here to walk each other home. So Carolyn, please elaborate a little bit. What does that mean for you? And why did you choose that title?
Yeah, it's pretty big. I mean, I was telling you earlier that I feel like I've a bit of an imposter because I stole it from one of my favorite clients, Pavo, who...
And who is that person? Let's give that person a shout out.
We'll just call him Pavo for now. Credits. A very wise soul who very, very wise, has done a lot of good thinking and has lived lots of deep life lessons. But when you put in that context, it just connects to so many other things that we do in life. It connects to our big relationships, whether they be our partners, our business partners, our parents. But it also connects in some of the micro experiences that we might have. We might not have an opportunity to forge a deep relationship with every human being that we come across, but it's that reminder that our humanness is what connects us all. And that to be human right now, that our human principles, values, beliefs, we need to keep at the forefront more than ever.
Why do you say that?
it's big. I guess I wasn't aware that this was going to come out. But I think if you look at a global level, the amount of tension that's happening in the world, that like truthfully, I never in my lifetime would have ever thought I would see one country go in and attack another country for no real justified reason. I know people will argue that there are, but never in my lifetime, after witnessing what my grandparents went through, did I ever think that history would repeat itself this way. So that's at a global level. I think at a micro level, what we're seeing in terms of just avoidance of strangers and the fear of one another and the fear of diversity and the fear of all that, that fear is sort of really taking up more space than it should, and that this idea that our humanness and our need to be connected to one another, and that our purpose for being here is to really help each other and serve each other. That should be the thing that's taking up the space, not the fear.
I agree. There's a lot of fear mongering and the news and all that good stuff. I mean, for me, what I find atrocious, and for the people who are consistent listener, you'll know that on November 6th of last year is when I found out, well, it's actually November 7th is when we found out that Ariel, my daughter, who's 13, her 13-year-old friend committed suicide on November 5th. So a 13-year-old girl, well, anybody, I shouldn't say a 13-year-old girl, most of all, the fact that we're bringing up these young people that are younger and younger committing suicide, younger and younger. And I think that it really rolls in well, because I one of the things that Carolyn, pardon me, wants to mention is, so I've been coaching rugby and field hockey for a long time. And I think this is a great time to inject the conversation about what you do, and kind of everybody calls themselves a life coach, or this coach, or that coach. You know, I've got coach on the back of my sweatshirt. What's your views on it?
Yeah, I think coach is a pretty powerful word, and a pretty, as I'm sure you would agree, like it's a very honored title, that you have played this role in people's lives, and essentially like we're there to make them better. And fun side comment, I used to coach a lot of field hockey back in the day, so we share that. And with that, that was part of my evolution, is really coming from the sports world and really being passionate about the pursuit of excellence and achieving goals and like being at our best. Like that really has been a part of who I am from a very young age, and sports was a big part of that. But what I see happening is the word coach has evolved into business, and it's evolved in a powerful way, in that if it's harnessed in the way that it's meant to be used, that it's powerful, and it actually speaks well to that purpose of walking one another home, that really we're here to support one another. And so executive coaching, why it's so meaningful to me, is it really puts true executive coaching, puts the power, the control, the solutions into the hands of, let's call it the client. Let's call it your report. And that gives them that autonomy, that resourcefulness to go out there and do it their way, and do it their way, and to find the solutions, and to take the ownership, and to take the action required to solve the problems or challenges that might be faced. And that historically what we saw in leadership was this sort of control and command model of like, here's what we're doing, here's what you got to go do, like go do it, like let's McDonald's this situation and like have this. Whereas what we're seeing is a need for a bit more space to allow people the autonomy and the resourcefulness to go and go after what it is that they're trying to create, or figure out the solutions that they need for whatever problems they have on their own without telling them. Now, so I just bring that up because sports coaching and executive coaching are two very different things. Like sports coaching, you and I were telling them how to hold a stick, we're telling them where to position themselves, we're telling them how to like weight transfer to score their goals. Whereas in executive coaching, we're saying, what's the problem? What's the dream? Who are you? How are you, what are you going to do about it? And what's the plan? So it really, we're not telling them what to do. We're just saying, hey, here's a stick. Go make it happen, you know?
The way that we address it with my team when we talk about, because one of the areas that we work on is we don't do coaching, but we'll do a lot of mentorship, and coaching is a key component of leadership regardless, right? So we don't consider a coach. We're not as good as you are, but we use coaching methodologies. And I always teach my project leads and our team to be able to identify when you're doing rescue coaching or responsible coaching. Responsible coaching is what you mentioned, saying, okay, what's the issue you're faced with? What tools do you have, right? Rescue coaching is, I'm going to pull you out. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to lead you. For me, that's the difference between mentorship and coaching to the purest form, like you're mentioning. To be a coach, you have to be a responsible coach where you let the individual grow in their own way. Rescue coaching is the mentorship. We'll say, hey, hold your stick this way. This is what you do. This is how you do it. I think we use the word coaching to, really overwhelm. I wonder what I have not looked. Do you know what the true Oxford Dictionary definition of coaching is?
I don't know the Oxford Dictionary coaching, but the ICF has their own definition. I'd have to look it up, but it wouldn't involve any rescuing. It wouldn't involve any
I think so, right?
Doing any of the work. I mean, it's fine that it's your term and you're using it as a part of your culture, but like the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, really puts that power in the hands of the client in order to solve it for themselves. I have a coach on my team who's always saying to me, you're working too hard, Carolyn. Like, that's up to the client. That if they're going to really create the breakthroughs and achieve the levels of success that they want to achieve, we can be there definitely to support and definitely to lend an ear. But that, like, for people to achieve true growth and transformation, it's going to happen on their own through what
I agree.
Walking through their own.
We talked about this the first time we met about transactional versus transformational. I think the listeners, I mean, we could have gone on for hours. I think what Carolyn is saying is that listen very carefully to what she said about transformational. Now, if depending on as a leader, you have to evaluate what the criticality of the problem that needs to be solved. And if you need the individual to be transformational because it is not of criticality, then you should always, always, always revert back to transformational for, in my opinion, a very selfish reason. The more autonomy, the more growth, the more you enable and facilitate that individual, they'll make their own decisions, and that will liberate you from having to do it. That's a very lazy way of thinking about it, but
no, I think you bring up a great point, because a really good point, because we don't always need executive coaching. We don't always need coach leadership. Like, sometimes we just really need someone to tell us how to do something. Like, Martin, if you've been somewhere before and you've seen it and you've done it and you're like, this person is in a world of hurt, and I know if they just pick up the phone and call this person, that's going to fix it. Like, that's what that problem needed at the time. I think that leadership is like, we could call it a rainbow of colors. We could call it a bunch of different hats. Like, we have to pull on the different hats depending on what the situation is. And that in part is part of the challenge, is like, well, what kind of leadership is being called of me right now? Am I the leader that's going to tell and just like manage you and say, this is how I fix it? Am I going to inspire? Am I going to coach? So that's really part of our challenge as leaders, is to figure out what the problem is and what style of leadership is required in order to support that person right now.
I hope that the listeners just caught on to this. What, and what? 3 questions in a row. Carolyn does it best. Last time we've spoken like 3 times now, and the second time Carolyn just jumped in. So how are you doing? What you're doing? How do I? And then she just led with questions and questions and questions and questions and questions. And that is, I say it in Spanish, the power of la pregunta, of the power of the question. When you're coaching, and Carolyn could not get out of it. She does it so well and so frequently. She just blasted me with a whole bunch of questions. I was like, wow, that's what I sound like. So food for thought, but a tool for all of you that are listening. You want to be transformational. Don't dictate, facilitate. So facilitate the conversation through questions, right?
Yeah. The three questions I really like to ask are like, what do you want? Who are you? And how are you going to make it happen? So it's really like the what, the who, and the how. You can also throw in some why in there, like what's the purpose behind it, but what do you want? Who are you? So who are you is my strengths, my blind spots, my values, my purpose, my emotional intelligence, like all of that. And then how are you going to make it happen? It's just like the plan, the goals, getting it done.
I agree. We often get too caught up in the purpose. And that's the one thing that we do with our clients all the time is, oh, you want to help the world. Okay. You can't help the world if you don't have money in the bank. So as much as I love your enthusiasm, if you don't have the time, energy, or resources, you can't do nothing. So focus on building what you need to build to get there. So what do we need to achieve? And that there's nothing wrong with that, right? Unless I'm wrong, right?
No, I don't. I think, I always sort of laugh around purpose. Like I love purpose. Don't get me wrong. Like I think it's really, really important to understand the context behind why you're doing something. But I will argue that like 9 times out of 10, it's usually connected to like making the world a better place and like walking each other home. But I
say
really
that again. Say that again, because I think you
walking
whispered that one on.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to us just like connecting with our humanness. Like we can go down that tangent in a minute, but you know what you said, the what, like that makes me think of like Jim Collins, the hedgehog principle, which is like, yeah, what is it that you want to do? What am I the best in the world at? And can I make money? And those three factors need to be there if your business is going to be successful. You could want to be like the best recording artist in the world, but if like no one likes your money and you're not making any money, no one likes your music, sorry, and you're not making any money, like you don't have a business. So those factors need to be there, I think, as equally important.
People view capitalism as an evil. And I think there's this misunderstanding that because you're rich, you're mean. And I think that what people are looking at and seeing is that jealousy gets in the way. And what I have found, and I'm crossing my fingers that this is going to keep on happening for the benefit of this planet, is that the people that the word philanthropy is often like coaching just thrown around. Really, what are you going to do with it? Like, what are you going to do with the money to leave wherever you are and whoever you are in a better place? And I think that's something that is very powerful in coaching in what you guys do, because it just forces you to really think, like you said, how am I going to, I'm entitled to being walked home as well. It's not just me holding on to people. I'm entitled for somebody to walk me home. Not entitled, I shouldn't say. If you treat everybody with dignity and respect and you treat people the way that you want to be treated, it's okay to ask for help sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. There's a lot in what you just talked about, for sure. I think if I can say the problem with capitalism is the definition of business, the historic definition of business is that it exists to line the pockets of the shareholders. And that thinking is fraught as far as I'm concerned. And that our businesses need to exist to serve the people that they serve, both internally and externally. And that is what gives capitalism a bad name. It's consumption is what gives capitalism a bad name. Consume more, consume more. I don't know if I should say this, but I will, and we can decide if we want to edit it out later. I had this thought last night. I was like, this whole like anti-abortion thing happening in the US, like with, okay, let's have more children so that they can buy more guns and we can make more money and just keep the cycle going. Like, that to me is where we've gotten off track, is that when we're putting our economies ahead of our humanness and our real purpose, which is really to show up for each other. That's what gives capitalism a bad name. So.
Yeah, no, we at our weekly huddle on Monday, one of the top events for one of our, he said he's reading the book, is it the Norwegian or Swedish way of eliminating? Oh, I forget the name of the book. I'll have to figure it out. But it's how to eliminate stuff, how to be a minimalist. And I've been practicing that for the past year. And if you haven't touched it, so how does it go? If you haven't touched it in 6 months, review it. If it's going to bring you more memories, then keep it. But if it's not going to bring you more memories, then it goes to Salvation Army or the dump. Is it going to help somebody help build memories of their own? Then give it to the donation. If it's not, then take it to the dump, to the recycling center. I think, yeah, consumerism there's nothing wrong in consuming. I think that what we're looking at, people, sustainable and conscious conscious consumption. Like, do you need that? Do you really need it? So tell me something. Let's go into not to do's, and then we'll go into the to do. When you say I don't want to say dislike. What bothers you is the overuse of the word coaching, right? So what behaviors? What are people doing that you think it does not fit in the terminology coaching, and how is it being misused, if you want to call it
yeah great question. I think it's when people use it out of context in business, which is like I'm a negotiations coach, or I am a sales coach, and like it's a bit tricky. Like it's a bit tricky. It's like when coaching really means I'm telling them what to do and how to do it, because then I think it loses its true power. So really, you're a negotiations trainer, or you're a sales trainer. Like, you're giving them the tools, the steps to do it. Whereas what I love and what's so powerful about the word coach and executive coach in the business context is that power goes back to the individual, the client that has the challenge, the problem. So that's it. Will it ever change? No, but I do think it goes back to what we just talked about, is understanding, like, what's the obstacle that we're faced with, and which is the tool that we need to pull out of the toolkit in order to overcome it. Is it a training conversation? Is it a management conversation? Is it a coaching conversation? So that's the leadership challenge, is just understanding the obstacle and which tool is required to address it.
You've used the word executive coaching a few times. Why do you choose that term instead of business coach or people? Why do you use executive?
Again, like, this doesn't go to any like sort of standard language, but in my mind, the way I think about it is executive coaching is very leadership driven, leadership based. Who am I as a leader? How am I showing up? What's the impact I'm having? What is it that I want for my team, the business, my department? Business coaching can extend past leadership towards the whole business. What's the vision for the business? Who are our like ideal customers? What's our value proposition? Business coaching just sort of expands a little bit more. And then life coaching is really just about, like, what do I want out of life? Who am I, and how am I going to make it happen? So it's just different arenas for the conversation.
So let's talk something a little bit more tactical. So I'm a leader. I get coached. Within our business at Urgio, we define 4 types of leaders. There's the frontline supervisor. So official leadership titles, right? We have the frontline supervisor who does more, but then leads, I'll say, 50 to 75, maybe 75% of the time he or she is doing, and then 25% leading. Then you've got what we call the leader of leaders. So a leader of leaders is a person who has no direct impact on business at the exception of leading other people. Okay. So that's frontline supervisor. Then we have manager as well, not a manager, because a manager manages systems. We have leaders that lead people. So we have the leader of leaders. Then the third level is the executive. So we have the executive who manages, he or she is still a leader of leader, but in an executive strategic kind of way. And then lastly is we have the influential leader, which a lot of people don't put as a category. Yet if we have somebody who is an employee, who is part of a leadership advisory team, they're part of a safety community, they're part of a union rep, for example, they have an influential leadership role within the organization. If I'm the leader, I'm executive leader, how do I coach? I want to implement coaching within my business. How do I do it? Do I change something? How would you view that?
That's a great question. And it's a lot of organizations are faced with it. It can look like having outside coaches working with different levels of leadership within your organization and building training and workshops around that. It can look like hiring someone internally on your HR department to create a coaching culture and build the capabilities from within to, really live and enact a coaching culture from within. So there's like an external approach and an internal approach, and it usually depends on the size of the business and how many people there are. But I do think it needs to start in a learning-driven organization, people that really value learning as an organization and also value like personal awareness, that ability to look in the mirror and be honest, be humble, be vulnerable, and say, this is who I am, and this is where I need to grow, and this is what I need to work on.
Richard Branson listens to this and says, I love this view of this comment of we're here to walk each other home. Loves it. He's like, okay. Throws millions and millions of dollars at you, and he says, I want everybody to say this within the company within the next 3 years. Hires you. What does that look like?
It looks like amazing. And can we start the kickoff on Necker Island and like play some tennis? Because we bring in all his like key leaders to Necker Island and we define what walking each other home looks like and means in our organization. We create some great discussions. We create some goals.
So what does it look like? What does walking each other home mean for you? If it was, he leaves it up to you. He's like, I don't care what, I do care. You're in charge. What does it look like?
Well, I mean, I'd push back a bit and be like, we need to define it internally, what that means and what it actually could look like. So let's say that we've done that. But ultimately it means going back to like all the points that we've been talking about is really putting humans and those relationships at the forefront of what we do. So really supporting one another to be at our best, mind, body, and soul. Really supporting one another to define what it is that they want for their careers, what they want for their roles, what they want for this business, and all be working together towards that. It looks like sort of having some internal champions, possibly some internal committees that would be dedicated to this initiative, and then setting those goals and those parameters to measure it. And then obviously finding ways of measuring it. Like, are we a human-based organizations that puts relationships first? How do we define that? How do we measure that and creating it? And I think, it's the balance of like valuing humans and our relationships first, but that's great. but what does that actually mean and look like for us in this business, in this industry? And allowing their business to put the spin on it in a way that's meaningful for them. That's the power, is that we co-create something together that works for them.
It's amazing how we think. So I'm going to give a few tools here, because what we're talking about is very high level, and people say, it's just soft skills. They're by having creating clear, intentional outcomes, or aiming to say, what does walking each other home look like, means that people like to have direction. They are looking for us as leaders to facilitate their work. They're looking at us for us to elevate their skills and expertise. And they're here to understand that we are here to celebrate them as human beings. And do I see you? Do I hear you? Do you matter to me? There are very tactical ways of actually doing it. Performance management. People always say, oh, wow, if we want to have a people first organization, we can't do performance management. That is fucking bullshit. Because what people want is they want to be recognized for the hard work they do. So if you don't do performance management, how can you recognize? If you don't take the time to go on a leadership retreat to create good direction for the organization and write a job description, here's my expectations of you. Second one, facilitation. If you don't open the door to say, opening the questions, how can I help you? What do you need to get the job done? Ask for questions. Let them make the errors. Let's facilitate the work. Now elevate them. Okay, Martin, you don't know everything. I don't, boss. Hey, listen, how do you feel about learning how to speak Croatian? Because you were getting a lot more clients. I don't know. Well, let's get it done. Let's learn. So am I doing that? And then say, Martin, you know what? You've done 6 months. You're not the bestest at speaking Croatian, but you're doing a good job. Is that not a full spectrum of I see you, I hear you, you matter to me, in a very ROI, being able to calculate how to improve the human being for the benefit of profitability? Is there something wrong with that?
No, I love it. I think you nailed it. Like, you put it so succinctly. Definitely. Absolutely. I agree with everything you just said.
It's so funny. I'm very good at business. At parenting, I am such a softie. And you know, Tracy, my partner, she's like, there's firm rules in the house, and I was like, why is it so difficult for me to apply the same business principle at home? Anyways, that is a whole kettle of fish by itself.
So do you apply that? I see you. What were the three? I see you. I hear you.
I hear you. Do you matter?
Do you
to
matter?
my
You
kids?
apply that to your kids? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think I don't think I know. Sometimes I let discipline slip because I feel the need to give more than what I got. And sometimes that's the wrong thing to do. I'm always checking. Like, you see, she did it again. You see how she turned the question on me? That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, no, but I want to now, like, you're seeing it in your parenting, but I see that happening in leadership all the freaking time. That what you're sort of trying to overcompensate for, which we could unpack another time, I'm hearing you say. But we see that in leadership, is that fear, again, showing up in leadership and negatively influencing our conversations and our direction and things like that, because people are afraid of being taken advantage of. People are afraid of making mistakes. Like, those fears get in the way of high-performing businesses.
I did a post today. I woke up. I'm usually grateful I was away on vacation. And I was down this morning. And I realized that I was not taking enough vacation. How can I lead? How can my actions did not meet my intentions at all. I'm telling everybody to take off, and I've not taken holidays in 3.5 years. Like, what the hell? I'm like, bad leadership, bad boy.
Yeah. I had the same experience this spring.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Just like when you actually fully fully shut off, not a bizcation, we like to call it in our family.
Mm-hmm.
No, you fully unplug. You're not available. You're not problem solving. Your brain is just like powering down. It is so important to your well-being, your team's well-being, your business's well-being. And you are bang on that not enough people have been doing that in the last 3 years.
Yeah. Hats off to Hootsuite that they shut the whole. I got an email because I'm a Hootsuite client, and I said, hey, if you're looking for us I think it was July last year or something like that. If you're looking for us from, July 5th to the 10th, whatever it was, we won't be there. As much as we love your business, we're shutting it down completely. I was like, Hootsuite, there you go. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Indeed has been another leader in that front. They've been doing an unbelievable job. I don't know if they shut the whole business down, but they have basically what's called Indeed days, where you're expected to shut down and take a personal wellness day. And they post pictures of themselves surfing or hiking or biking. Indeed's been a really great company to watch navigate the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Who's the best coach ever? Who's the person, because I consider you a top-notch elite coach. Who do you look up to?
Oh man, I think I'm lucky to have had a just like a stable of amazing women to look up to. Mm-hmm. I've never articulated this before because I've always, how we started this conversation, like I've only ever had one female boss in my life, like one. Fun fact, she's a coach. Her name's Tracy Hutton, and she's head of people at Lululemon, and she was so cool. Oh. And she was my boss, but I was pretty young when she was my boss. It's been years since I connected with her, but I've always admired sort of who she is and the work she's done. Another really great foundational coach for me is a woman named Joan Mara here in Vancouver. She is this beautiful combination of spirituality and just like groundedness with like business acumen. She's heavily involved in EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. Mm-hmm. Another coach I look up to, her name is Kathy McLaughlin, another Vancouver-based coach, just an experienced woman, just leading the way, doing it her way, and making major impact in business. So those are probably a few of them. I could probably go on and on. I admire the coaches on my team. They're unbelievable. They stretch me. Sasha, Candace.
So what are you working on? What's the one thing that you, for 2022, what's the one thing that you're coaching yourself on?
It's a bit embarrassing to say, but I will say it. It's my own personal health and wellness. And the reason I say it's embarrassing is because I actually started my career as an accidental personal trainer. And, I sometimes think that the younger version of myself would just be shaking her head at, I can preach the good word, but am I walking the talk? No, like that's the full truth. And so, like, I really have put health and wellness at the forefront of this year, like by talking to specialists, getting more informed. We just read The Stress Code by Richard Sutton, a former trainer of my husband's from the tennis tour. And just like re-immersing myself in health and well-being again, making it a priority, because as a business owner, as a mom, as a partner, like my wellness, like I can somehow easily put it at the bottom of the list. Whereas despite all of the education I've had, all of the work that I've done, I don't listen to it. And I know now more than ever at this age, it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. And I think it goes back to your conversation about vacations. Like, it cannot be at the bottom of my list anymore. It absolutely can't. Otherwise, my walk home is going to be short.
It's funny how you and I share. I can't believe it. I'm the same way. I run. Well, how many clients do we have now? I can't count. How many we have? Everybody looks up to me, and yet I feel like I have an imposter syndrome where I feel I'm not fat. I have some chub. I have some extra chub that I can get rid of. And no matter how much I look at being kind to myself, and it's like, why are you such, I can't do it. Not that I can't. I shouldn't say that, because I tell my kids all the time, can't but and try or not words in our household. So, but I struggle so much, and no matter how much I say it to others, for me, the same thing is 2022. Self-care is not selfish. How can I be a provider, a security guard, a protector, a leader if I'm not healthy? It just doesn't compute, and no matter how the hard work gets in the way, it just drives me nuts. Absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the story I have in my head is around like billable hours. Like I work in a billable hour world, and if I'm going to take that hour, really, it's like when all is said and done, it's 2.5 hours to go and do whatever that thing is I'm going to do. The story is like I'm missing out. And what's interesting is like I coach people all the time and like shifting that trading time for money mentality. That there's a bigger picture at play here. Like see the bigger picture. Don't just like see the billable hour that you're missing out on. So that's the work that I need to do, and I'm working on it. Haven't figured it out. I'm really good at coaching other people on it, but I'm still working on it.
So why do you think, let's work this through. Why do you think you and I'm sure we're not the only ones. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people listening right now and going, I do the same thing. I tell people what to do. So why, let's work this out. Why do you think you and I can't hold ourselves accountable to doing it? Why do you think that is? Because we're knowledgeable, we're experienced. So if we look at Passkey, do we have the right profile? Yeah. Do we have the right attitude? Yes. Do we have the skills? Yeah, for sure. Do we have the experience and knowledge? Yes. Do we have the energy to do it? Yeah, I think so. So why are we not achieving what we want to achieve? Why are we not holding ourselves accountable on a day-to-day basis? And I'm not asking you, I'm asking myself as well to think about it, but I think this is a good topic for us to cover.
Yeah, I think it probably connects back to some of those fears that we might have in life. Or like it's always like people are usually motivated in two ways. Like they're motivated towards something. So having like, let's just be super superficial here, like having the body of your dreams, or they are trying to avoid something. So we're working from a place of fear, or we're working from a place of like want and dream and intention. And so for me, I think the accountability piece is hard because like you said it really well. It's like, it's not selfish. And to me, like the messaging goes around like the need to provide for my family and the need to be with my family. Like those are the things that I need. Like that's what's most important. And somehow it gets messy in there, and personal accountability around health and wellness can become just like spun in a different way, that it is selfish of me to want to go do that right now, that my kids need me right now, the dog needs me right now, the client needs me right now. So I think it's either rooted in like the dream is not big enough for you, like that dream of having like that health and well-being is not big enough.
Agreed.
Or
yeah.
there's a like an underlying shadow belief that is just like keeping you stuck in the same pattern.
I agree. I think the vision, I couldn't care less. If I go to the beach, take my t-shirt off, I don't care. If I'm hot, I'm hot.
Yeah. But I will say, I just want to say one more thing. Like the thing that I need to personally remember is that like when I've had like a good workout in usually in the morning, like I am on fire at night, like in such a positive way. Like I have the energy to make the dinner and be there for the kids in the way that they want me to, and just like have the conversations, like spend the time with my husband. Like when I've had that, I can like really kill the day. And so that's what I want to hold on to personally, is that like it might seem like it's, taking away from me just like getting to executing the day super quick, but it just like creates such better longevity of energy over the course of the day, and probably yields way better 100%. Results.
Okay, 2 more questions because I got to. So you mentioned a whole bunch of female role models. Is there a difference in leadership style that you've noticed between a female coach and a male coach?
Maybe. I haven't worked with a lot of male coaches, to be honest with you.
I find,
I just think, yeah, go for it.
working with my team, what I have found is that men tend to be very singular in achievement. We'll do what needs to get done. We're considerate of others, but the mission is our task, right? Where women seem to see more risk in the process than the result. The reason is I feel that they're like, well, hold on, if we do this, there's a lot more connectivity between the entire organization when the project lead is a female, when the project lead is a male, the result gets done faster, but sometimes at a higher risk, where females are less risk-taking and more collaborative in approach. That's what I've seen in performance, right? When I evaluate, both get the stuff done, but in different ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would come at it a bit differently. I think that isn't unique to gender. I think some people like to move fast and some people like to consider all of the scenarios and the risk. Um, Personally, like I just seen way more male leaders than I have. That's just the doors that we're talking about. And I would agree
Mm-hmm.
with you. Like I would say 80% of my clients are male CEOs, and they like to move quickly and they like to
Mm-hmm.
get things done and they value results 1,000%. I think what I see differently in female leadership, so we're not necessarily talking about coaching here, but we're talking about like,
Yeah,
yeah,
leadership is fine. Yeah, yeah.
leadership is I think that women um, more and more, maybe not the old guard of female leadership, but I think more and more women are being told that it's okay to bring your whole selves to the table, and that
Yes.
it is okay to have emotion in this room. You know, my parents always raised me, you leave your baggage at the door. You go in, you got a sales call and you just were in a car accident, like you don't talk about the car accident, you get the deal done. Whereas I think
Mm-hmm.
that mentality is sort of shifting, and that we're seeing a softer side of leadership and the importance of it emerge as a result of the work of people like Brene Brown and Dare to Lead, and the importance of vulnerability and building trust. And so I think that more often than not, women do a better job of um, just bringing them whole selves, allowing for emotion to show up, and just allowing for it, like allowing that space for it. And I think that more and more in leadership, we're seeing that that's what's needed. I mean, the world certainly needs it right now, but what's needed in order to build trust in organizations is to allow for those vulnerabilities.
I don't like the word soft because I don't like to associate women with soft skills. My opinion is the softness is really in that collaboration in regards to being empathetic and collaborative in the approach of saying, "Hey, what do you think, Martin?" Like there's a lot more collaboration at the female level when we're talking about that, where the guys are, you put five guys together, okay, let's get shit done, let's move forward, blah, 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 blah. Where women will say, hey, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And then they come up with a plan that is 9 times out of 10 a lot more effective and to the point than the guys going bump, 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 bump. And again, we're generalizing here. There's a lot of people who are both. There's a lot of good leaders. I think I'm a good leader. I'm very collaborative as well. I'm generalizing in regards to that. So we can move on from there. But that was for me I wanted to hear, because it is important. My daughter is really coming up, and I want to be the best father that I can be. I want to use my ability to open doors to say, okay, well, how do we recognize, and inclusivity is the key to success, in my opinion. Just bring everybody at the table. Just open the doors. Whoever has the best door opening skills, then do it. And then bring everybody with you. Because we are all walking everybody home, or we're, how do we say it again? Oh, geez, I forget now. Carolyn, last question. What is your reference material of choice? It could be new, it could be later. What's your go-to book? So for me, I am absolutely hooked on Sadhguru, the yogi of late. I cannot get enough of him, listening to him, applying some of his principles. That's mastering command and control, leadership. There's a lot of good stuff there, but of late, Sadhguru is my go-to person. What's you?
It's hard for me to answer in just one. My dad sold books for a living, and so I'm a lover of all books. But ones that I refer to often are Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, which I've already talked about.
Of course. Yes.
Measure What Matters.
Oh, that's
a really good one. So I feel like the Dare to Lead is like the heart side, and Measure What Matters is the like tactical doing side. And then like if we just want to like spread a little love over all of that is I think it's the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. I'm looking for it. It is 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And it's a simple guide, just sort of really remembering what's most important when we're showing up, looking for a win-win, like being the person that fuels our own security first, taking radical responsibility for our behavior. So I would probably say those three, they're a combination of head, heart, and soul. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Think, feel, do.
Think, feel, do.
Lovely. Well, with that, so Carolyn's, this was our first experience in a podcast, so thank you very much. I think you've done very, very well. For those who don't know Carolyn, she is a lot more interactive. I think her first podcast, she held back a little bit. There's a little bit more to her. So I definitely reach out to her. She's a fabulous coach, and an okay tennis player, I guess.
Totally average. But I love it. I want to get better for sure.
So how was your first experience?
It was phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you for making it so easy. Thank you for the privilege of coming and speaking with you and being a part of your diverse audience. I'm really grateful. I love your little interjections and all your little hot tips. Yeah, thank you.
Fabulous. Well, with that said, my name is Martin Hunter. I'm the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategy into frontline operations. Please like, subscribe, and click the little notification bell so for when the videos come out, there you get notified. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes, or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.